So occasionally you have these amazing days where everything you're writing seems to come together and you have one musical idea that flows beautifully into another and then it all seems to work. Most of the time that is not the case though. So we need some techniques so we can generate ideas so that when we are having a bit of a rubbish day, we can just come up with musical ideas and sort of start off our imaginative process. Okay, so on the first slide, we've got just a little picture of an acorn, and that's sort of like the crux of this whole idea, right? We're not creating a full piece of music using these techniques. We are just simply starting, we're getting the spark, we're getting the little sort of seed or acorn that grows into the final piece at the end. We're just getting that first starting piece. Flipping through to our next slide, we've got the briefs for today, all right? We're going to be looking at different techniques of writing music. We're going to be using some numbers, we're going to recap our number rhythms, and we're going to figure out how we can use those to start sort of creating some music. We're also going to show you some examples. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly look at recapping how we use number patterns when we're looking at music. So I'm going to use these number cards. These should help me out. I've made these earlier. These are very high spec ones. And we're going to put some random numbers down. We're just going to figure out a random rhythm and see how it sounds. So we got this one, we got 1 2 1 1 1 2 3. What we're going to do is I'm just going to draw them out so we can see a little bit easier. We're going to count the pulses and we're only going to clap when we say 1. So when we count up to 2, we go 1 and then 2. Okay? So we're going to go like this. 1 2 1 1 1 2 3. That'll be our complete rhythm. And now we can add in some more numbers. Let's add in this 4 here. So it's going to go 1 2 1 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3 1 2 1 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3. So that piece there, the violin part, was actually created using one of these number patterns, one of these techniques that I did. I used 4 bars of 3 in order to give me my numbers. So that gave me quick maths, that gave me 12 beats, and then I divided them up into those patterns just by experimenting and sort of messing around with those different numbers. So what we need to do is you can either create yourself a quick set of number cards, or you can just randomly put down some numbers, but I would like you to create 2 rhythms using that method. Then just type those into the next slide and then you can send those back to me. Okay, so another way you can use number patterns is you can actually just use barcodes. So I think I told the story before where I'd be working at Sainsbury's and on a bit of a late shift when there's not much going on, you need to find a way to keep yourself from going crazy. So I actually started using the SKU codes off the boxes because I am really, really cool. So that is what I decided to do. If you have a look at this, if you look on the next slide, you'll see a Mr. Sheen ball. So I actually used a barcode from just a product I had lying around, and you can see the numbers that are on there. When I used these numbers and I added them up, it actually created a rhythm that was in 7/4. So I used this to create the bass line, and then as we talked about with our little seed idea, the imagination sort of took over, and then I had ideas for drums and a sort of weird idea for some synths. Again, and maybe I got a bit carried away, but that's actually sort of proving my point. The fact that once you come up with one of these small ideas, that's like the spark that sort of sets you going. Okay, so have a listen to this example that I've done using that sort of Mr. Sheen rhythm as the bass. So your task is going to be to find a barcode, preferably do more than one. You can also go into shops. Maybe you can't do that at the moment. You could also then just find some objects from around the house, create this barcode rhythm, and then you can use that to create some rhythms. And those could go on any sort of instrument that you want. It could be a lead line, a bass line, or a sort of drum pattern. This is probably my favorite one, and it's from a guy called Joseph Schillinger. So if you flick onto the slide with the weird black and white photo, this is the same photo that I have above my bed in a 4x4 meter poster. Joseph Schillinger is one of these sort of forgotten heroes, really. He was actually the teacher of like great composers such as George Gershwin. He had a huge sort of thriving music school in New York. And then after he died, people seemed to forgot about it. And the way that he went about sort of composing music was that he was very much inspired by maths, and he was very much inspired by physics. He didn't really like notation, and he thought sort of that people who do notation and who work entirely in notation, they're sort of looking backwards. They're looking backwards to people like Beethoven and amazing composers like that, and they're not really thinking about how music can develop in the future. He came up with this amazing idea of wave interference. So you have two different cycles of notes. So in this one we have a 3. So if you flip onto the next slide, in this one we have a 3 and a 2. So again, we're going to be clapping when we say 1 and counting up to 3. I've color coded the arrows, so hopefully that has helped. So in the top one and the 3, we've got 1, 2, 3, 1 with an attack on the 1. And then in the 2, we have a clap on the 2. And then we have a sort of hanger-on beat afterwards. So it will go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there's 2 ones, just 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? Now all of that shouldn't be sort of too surprising in a minute. The next stage is the fact that these two rhythms combine and they actually make a rhythm that sort of is resultant from them. So you can see here, whenever there's an arrow pointing down, that is like an attack, right? So you can see in the 3, it goes down, up, up, down, up, up, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Whenever there is a arrow pointing down, we're going to collate those rhythms together. So you can see that we've actually got a rhythm that's a product of these two different patterns interacting, okay? If that doesn't make sense, have a look at the video which talks through this, because it's a little bit easier to see once you see it sort of acted out and actually sort of work through as an example. Okay, this is a really, really powerful technique though, because it allows you to create sort of mathematical symmetrical rhythms that first of all are really catchy, but also they're resultant from basic physics. So it's like our brain understands them on a sort of intuitive level anyway. If that makes sense. It's very weird, but once you clap one of these rhythms, it just works. It just makes sense in your head. All right, let's do a little worked example. So hopefully you can see that clearly. We're going to put a smaller number at the top. So we have 2, and then our second number we're going to use 3. So times those 6 beats. That will be when these two come back together and complete like one whole cycle. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our number 2s. Remember, we're only putting an arrow where you would clap that attack. So in 1, 2, it's going to go 1, 2, 1, 2 like that. So it just gives us a little bit more of a sort of visual way of seeing that. Cool. So that's 6. Then we're also going to do our 3. Make sure these line up. And then again, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then there would be an attack on that one, an attack on that, and we're back here. We're back here, our complete set. So I usually draw this one just so I know that I've gone back to the start. So what we're going to do is we're going to add up the beats between them. So you can see we've got 1, 2 before there's an attack. So we're adding up all these arrows, right? We're adding up whenever these arrows come in. So we've got 1 beat, 2 beat, and then there's an arrow. So we can go like, we're going to count those up. We're going to say there's 2. So between here it goes 2. Then we got to get to this beat where the next one is. That's 1. So there's 1 beat in between the middle. To get to this beat, there's another 1 in the middle. So you got 2 gaps, 1 gap, 1 gap. And then to get to this beat at the end, we've then got 1 and then 2 beats. So our complete sort of Schillinger rhythm is going to go like this. It's going to go 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2. And the task for this is going to be to choose 2 number pairs and then create yourselves some rhythms that are resultant from them. So it could be 3 and 2, it could be 4 and 3, it could be 2 and 5. There's actually many possibilities. And if you look on the PDF that is attached to this on Class Charts, there's actually a massive table that your boy Joseph Schillinger has already done for you. So that is basically all of the different combinations of notes that are possible. So you can take one of those rhythm patterns now and then just use that in your composition. These are free rhythms. You know, these horrible MIDI pack sales things where they're talking about all these MIDI clips and they're just major chords and whatever. This is literally the same, except it was done a little bit better in the 1950s. The last one we have to look at is we have just a website. It's called Random Rhythm Generator. This is very good again for sort of sparking up ideas, because then you can just, this is very good for sparking off ideas. You can just click on this random rhythm generator, look at if you want to use 16th notes, 8th notes, how they're going to be banded together, if you want to do 1 bar, if you want to do 4 bars, and then you just literally click generate and it generates you a random rhythm. Again, most of these might be rubbish, but again, some of these might not be what you want, but then it gives you the ability to sort of use those and then choose the ones that sort of spark an idea in your head. Okay, thank you for listening, and this is going to be your homework for the entire term break. Make sure you use these rhythms, because this is a very powerful tool to have in your back pocket. It means whenever you're thinking about ideas, you can just pull these ideas out and they work. They sound fantastic. And it's just like having a big sort of toolbox full of rhythms, full of small ideas which spark off your imagination to start composing. As ever, stay safe and namaste.